Hi, Kim.
Hey,
To
Miss
you and
Ramona.
Seth. Hey there. So all of you are in New York?
We are.
I feel so bad.
Do not feel bad. And you have a room full of people. So,
Yay.
okay. So, your guys' audio sounds really good.
Okay.
Um, and Robert, Ramona, Robert.
Hi,
I think
Robert.
you guys met
Hi,
before.
Ramona.
Yeah, we've met before.
And then we have Beverly. Beverly, say hey. Let me see if my owl is working. Hello. Hey.
Crystal, why do you have on sunglasses?
Oh, golly, I'm so glad you told me that. I'm gonna put my glasses on.
You're auditioning for Secret Service this morning.
Okay.
Sorry, Miss Ramona. It's been a hectic morning.
Oh, let me take my glasses off.
The president threw some monkey wrench in my plans, so.
I
Yeah, it's
understand that.
in his entourage. So. Okay, that's much better. It's not dark in here, so I'm like, why did you guys tell me that? I didn't know. Can you see me?
Nope, it's not picking up. You gotta speak louder for the owl to pick up your voice.
Yeah, speak louder, baby. Oh, there we go. It hears now. Okay, that's me something. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start the webinar. Okay. Okay. What time is it?
11:42.
Oh, thank you. Oh, 12 minutes late. That's okay. We're gonna go quick. Um, wow, thank y'all guys so much for and being patient while we had to transition to get here. We got held up in traffic. So good morning, relatives and friends, and welcome to our people that's on Zoom right now. Welcome to the Rights of Nature, Protecting Land and Life from Fossil Fuels. So we are gathered here in Lenape Ancestral Lands, and we honor their ongoing connection to this place. This gathering lifts up Indigenous law, ceremony, and traditional ecological knowledge alongside U.S. legal frameworks. So together we ask, how do we protect rivers, forests, and communities when current laws often prioritize extraction? How can rights of nature rebalance law towards responsibility and relationship? So we always begin in ceremony, and I want to ask my husband to open us up with a blessing for today.
Ushtali, Yakoki, thanks be to the Creator in whichever form or fashion or teaching or understanding that you all have learned of that great mystery of life. I want to apologize to the Lenape and Lenape Greater Nation for standing on your colonized territory in this colonized way in the ruins of concrete that was once your paradise of soil and water and life. I want to ask the Creator in the colonizer's language because I don't even have the spirit this morning to say it in my own. I first want to thank you for the ability of us to have our two legs to still stand, to have our free voice to still resist, to have our strong heart inside our chest, which will not be silenced, and let you know I do not take it for granted. I thank the Creator for still having that, able to come out of all you relatives without being incarcerated for it, or worse. I want to ask special prayers and protection and healing for all of those that have been systematically and intentionally incarcerated, systematically and intentionally addicted, systematically and intentionally starved, tortured, bombed, broken, diseased, Mal-educated, miseducated, misinformed, strategically and tactically. I want to say special prayers for those that the trauma is so much for that they take their own living breath. I want to say special prayers for the children coming up in this, that we as grown people understand our own trauma and do not put it on that next generation that way. I want to say special prayers and protection for all the wisdom keepers, the strong women warriors that are leading these fronts, that they stay protected, that us men unlearn our patriarchy and understand that we have wasted the last century trying to bring solution to this, and all we can do is offer up our bodies to protect them and keep our mouths shut. I want to ask special prayers for all that are listening and all that are understanding and all that are healing. And the rest of my prayers I'll do in silence. Matak, we also, we are all related. And I appreciate you all my relations.
Thanks, thanks so much. Nelly, you wanna go on here? So this is Nelly, she's one of our co-partners with Education. Yes, thank you. I know you just got here. Could you lead us in some mindfulness exercise, maybe for like 5 minutes? Okay. Let's see if we finish the chair.
Yeah, and just so people can see me and I'll just not by any means sitting on speakers. So, so many of you know what mindfulness is. I feel like you practice something, right? So, the intention is to really, and as I'm landing here, it's literally like about what is the foundation of our work, and if we're not present, then it's so much more difficult to stay close to our values and our connection to each other, to ourselves, to each other, and Mother Earth and our ecosystem. So it's more than just centering ourselves, it's what centering ourselves allows us to manifest your actions. So the invitation is to really just let go of all of the things that might be playing in the mind. If you want, you can allow your eyes to close. You can, if you feel safer keeping your eyes open, just lower your gaze to the floor and soften your eyes. And I will keep my eyes open so that everyone knows that they're safe. So beginning by just feeling the feet. Let the whole sole of the feet touch the ground. And crossing your limbs with your thighs. So bringing your feet to the ground and feeling the fullness of that weight. And the fullness of the weight of gravity of the feet touching. Feel to toe. And as we sense into the presence of the body in the space, remembering that these feet touching the ground, there might be some layers removed from the actual earth. But that beneath our feet, something is supporting us all the time. All the time. And so every time we notice that our feet are on the ground, we remember being supported. We remember all of the elements that the ground is made of, the body is made of, the water, the air, fire element, earth element, even space. And in the ground that supports us are the remnants of all of our ancestors. So just by feeling our feet, we are connected to all who have come before us. And we can experience that in the present. And now allowing your attention from your feet, that sense of being grounded and supported, allow your attention to rise to your legs, hips, feeling the body sensations, the inside, feeling the weight, and the distribution of weight as the body sits on the chair. And maybe observing the posture, so being aware of what posture, how am I carrying this body right now? What is this posture speaking? Is it speaking burden? Is it speaking to me? What am I sensing? So sometimes you might notice that the body is kind of slouching, tired, whatnot. So just bring a slight lift to the torso, raising the chest high, allowing the spine. It's a beautiful body part that allows us to experience so much. Next, all of the members to the body. And it also wakes up the vagus nerve. And now sensing into the shoulders, the arms, the head, having a sense of the whole body. Sensing into the breath wherever you feel it. And just taking a few intentional breaths. Give the breath that we share with each other, with the trees, with all beings. So just a few breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Slowly. Appreciating this delicious breath. Experiencing the quality from our own collective presence here. Allowing that stillness to go deep in the midst of our activities today, to bring back to this deep presence that we have. Is our activism. So when you're ready in your own timing and your own way, then back out, lifting your eyes open. So if you want to stay a little longer, I'll be quiet for like 15 more seconds. So transition. Last thing I'll say is, as I was walking here, I decided it felt burdensome because I'm in heels. And I was like, walk, and then so it felt like burden, and I was like, look at all of this beautiful history of the trees in Bryant Park. And so it just reminded me that no matter where we are, there's so much to appreciate. It doesn't mean that we block out the bad. But that, so it became like a mindful walking to here, and it was less burdensome, but I still got here. So I feel like that's a metaphor here. Of how we can show up with appreciation and joy, even though there's a lot of stuff.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody wants to share how, if there's something that came up for them, just in case there's anything popping up, so if there's room for that, feel free to invite that.
Okay, maybe a bit, yeah, talk about it.
Sure.
Well, actually, I feel pretty relaxed. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So there, the bathrooms are on the 18th floor. You just have to grab the pass and go down to the 18th floor. And we have 3 panelists today, because we're focusing here on the southeast. So I have, Beverly Kane, Ogeechee Bangus, Pony Nation Tribal Councilwoman. Then we have Ramona Big Eagle on, Zoom from Charlotte, North Carolina, Tuscarora Nation. And then we have Robert Rosa in Florida, from the Taino peoples. And we're, how would you say, Jay?
Boricua.
We're all from, we're all connected. Back in June, we were down there visiting, Miami, and there was a lot of, burial spaces and burial spots that's being built over by, hotels and stuff. And so I wanted, you guys to hear frontline people that you might not hear from every day, because our region faces fossil fuel expansion. We are facing extraction from and development. But the one thing that's happening here is the Mountain Valley Pipeline Southgate and the Southeast Supply Enhancement Project. And these projects threaten sacred sites, rivers, and the rights of communities. And our laws around water reflects competing traditions. So in the East and South, most states follow the riparian doctrine. The right to use water generally belongs to landowners bordering rivers, subject to a reasonable use standard. In the West, states develop the prior appropriation doctrine, usually meaning first in time, first in right, where rights go to whoever puts water to a beneficial use, regardless of land ownership. So you see a lot of people rerouting water to cities from people who really need it. But both of these systems show how the law has struggled to balance scarcity, economic growth, and ecology. Courts and legislatures layered on doctrines like public trust and federal statutes like the Endangered Species Act to protect in-stream flows. But you can see most of those acts have been rolled back. And so now it's pretty critical that we stand together and we start calling out what's really happening. And we're gonna have to fight them legally and regulatory ways. And then lastly, Native nations hold Federal Reserve water rights superior to later state claims. Those states have resisted and litigated those rights for decades. But when we talk about this in the form of rights of nature, it brings us back to an older foundation, indigenous law, where water is not a commodity, but a living relative with inherent rights. So I'm going to introduce first, Beverly Payne, who is going to, speak about her experience and what's been happening. And then we'll go to Ms. Ramona Big Eagle, and then we'll wrap up with Robert Rosa. So Ms. Beverly.
I have some questions here that Crystal actually wrote that she wanted me to.
Oh, we're gonna get to those questions.
Oh, okay.
Talk about your thing.
So imagine my surprise when I was reading, when I went out west. And I was at a federal, and I don't remember the federal, but we were in New Mexico, so. We went there. And it was the first time I have seen a Kiva. And if y'all don't know, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Because it's not mine to tell. But they also had a spring running through the reservation. And the reason I got to go there was because they were so poor that they were actually showing off their house or houses and how they live. And people paid, don't they? And so when I was asking about the stream, because it was maybe a foot wide, but I didn't know where it began or where it ended. They let us know that they couldn't use the water. It wasn't there. The state, the feds had taken it back. I couldn't imagine water being right there and I not being able to get it. So recently, there was tropical storm Chantal that came through North Carolina. Did I say I was from North Carolina? And I'm from North Carolina. So so tropical storm in Hillsborough, there is, and I'm a descendant of the Okanagees. And there is I manage a replica village of a real village that was occupied from 1680 to 1710 in Hillsborough. So, and it's near the river, and the river flooded, and the village flooded. Well, that's not so bad, because it's not the first time, and we are in what do you call it? We're in a floodplain. And so, but this time it was really bad. Because, and this is one of the third times that I can remember that houses that would have been that were on the last street in Hillsborough in the river, homes were flooded, the village was flooded. But the worst thing was that the solid waste pumping station was flooded. So, and some of the pipes that run with the river, but not in the river, actually broke and flooded. They run across the river. So there was sewage everywhere. Why do you build sewage near rivers? Why? So I'm talking logic here. And if the other thing is that if people could find a way to be paying for air, just like we pay for water bills. So we need to start these conferences and speaking up where we need to be speaking up. So when I go back home, fortunately, I know the mayor. And he works at the mill. So we're gonna be talking about trying to move those pallets. Because there were pallets that look like a cone shape with manhole covers on the top. The water got higher, and the water got to be 26 feet high. So the manhole covers just floated off the top. There was no way. So the town of Hillsborough and the city of Durham were all flooded through the Eno River. That's sewage. So my thing is to move those pallets, take all pallets away from rivers, water.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think, I mean, that's important. And that just shows how I guess the town of Hillsborough really does not respect the water. Because people drink from that source.
Yeah, that's our drinking source.
So I thank you, Beverly. So now I'm gonna turn to Ms. Ramona. And Ms. Ramona, if you could just talk for about 5 minutes about any type of rights of nature, things that have been happening down in Charlotte that you've seen, or any type of frontline events that you have experienced about rights of nature.
Okay, well, basically, all through my life, I think about different experiences when it comes to rights of nature and our disregard as a society for those rights. For instance, I think about, well, I can't really say just recently, but in Western North Carolina, for instance, the flooding, the downpour of rain, the flooding, the overflow of water in the banks that occurred like November of last year. And the reason I even bring that up is because the people are still experiencing the effects of that right now, still to this day. Water that's not drinkable, land that once held houses are no longer there. And it was because of a lot of it was because of complete disregard for the rights of nature. A lot of it came about for disregard for how, how we steward the land. I think is most appropriately said, how we steward the land, how we take care of the land. Um, and then I think about in Eastern, or that was Western North Carolina. When I think about Eastern North Carolina, and I think about the farms, the hog farms that have polluted the land, the water, the air. There's some parts of Eastern North Carolina that when you go there, you wear a mask, not because of any COVID concerns, but because the stench is so bad. For within those vicinities of those farms, the people have some of the highest incidence of cancer and different sicknesses just because of the disregard for the land, the water, the air. These are things that ought not be spoken of, let alone actually be happening in everyday life. This is just everyday occurrence, situations that people are dealing with just because of a lack of regard for the rights of nature.
Thank you, Ms. Ramona. So let's see, I'm trying to tie it in with, Ms. Beverly. So we had no regard for like human waste going into the river. Then in the Hurricane Helene, we're seeing a lot of, people still not being able to drink water in different parts of the state. And still a disregard for the water. Cause I know, I spoke to a lot of people up in, Swananoa
Mm-hmm.
just a couple of months ago about the rights of nature and trying to help them understand about not building in floodplains, because it was like 100-year flood. And so just trying to help them understand that the city should not have zoned or the county should not have zoned that. So just still not a respect for water. They're still treating it like a commodity. So Robert, if you could just speak briefly about what's happening in your area and about rights of nature, and then after that, we're going to do a little bit of question and answer.
Yeah, sure. We got a few issues going on. Mainly the climate change, killing the reefs, red algae bloom, and of course alligator Alcatraz in the middle of the Everglades. A lot of people believe that the Miccosukee have won, but that is still under appeal by the state. And in the meantime, judge has issued that they can still continue as on. But the main issue is once again a disregard for our relatives, meaning the water, fauna, and winged and four-legged creatures. And with the building, it's also going very bad and becoming detrimental to not only our water supply, but during hurricanes, more people are going to be horribly disappointed when it hits.
Okay. Let me just get back to my chat. So, we're gonna move into the question with our, panel here. So the first question I'm gonna ask is Beverly. So Beverly, what teachings guide us in protecting rivers and sacred sites from harm in North Carolina?
I think it's our soul memories. it. Where would we be without water? We could not survive more than 7 days without water. And without water, how do we live here? So water is life. And it's life for everything. I mean, air is gonna have water in it. So it's the veins that carry blood through our bodies, it's like that. It's like rivers carry life to all lives. Plants, the two-legged, as Jason says, and the four-legged. Everything needs water. And our government knows that. And that's how they control a lot of things.
What about, in our Okanichi way, how or what teachings got us to protect these rivers and sacred sites? Like any specific teachings that you can think of, right?
I mean, I don't. Y'all ever get it when they ask me questions because it's so common to me that I don't see that as a real question. For example, teachings would be that I wouldn't poop in the river.
Right? Oh, that's, okay, that's a good one.
But there's common sense.
Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, I do like that, our teachings. So like, I'm trying to think. So I'm thinking of like when we were going to our villages, right? So you have our Eno village here. And remember how you would say we were on this path of life, and we would take like years to get to the next spot. So we would
Okay.
use that.
So, okay, so she's talking about the Okemiki Trading Day. Sometimes called, what's up, no, I guess that's the Great Trading Day. But, the Great Trading Day went from Petersburg, Virginia, all the way to Georgia. I think it went to Georgia, but we came out of Virginia and we would walk to our relatives, the Catawbas in South Carolina. Today, I-85, many of you have traveled south of Virginia, I-85 follows the trading path, great trading path. There are places where you can see the great trading path. And in Hillsborough, it runs along the Eno River. And we built our villages, all of the tribes, if there was water around, they built their villages around the water source because they had to get water, so they weren't gonna walk. It would be a lot easier to live on the river and not have to walk a couple miles with whatever you were gonna carry your water in, which might have been the flat of a deer or a buffalo. We had buffalo, or as some people insisted, I say bison. There were bison on the East Coast. They were called woodland bison. They were smaller than the ones you see out west. But you don't. Life is water. You live near water because you couldn't live without it. For example, the village that I manage is a quarter of a mile away from the original site, which is probably closer to the river than we were. And somebody asked me, how did they manage? Actually, when floods happen. But you have to realize that we just had 100-year flood. And they weren't there 100 years. Like I said, they were there, but there are 3 other villages so close to it. I mean, they actually overlap. And those other 3 villages predated the Obaniki village, and how they knew they found the Obaniki village, because they found trade items. So everybody is living near water. I mean, from having those 4 villages there, everybody built near the water. And I don't think that, I really don't, I mean, maybe a flood is what happened to the first 3. I don't know. But we're having superstorms now, which life is a whole lot different.
Well, Beverly, thank you so much. You reminded us that Indigenous law that we had has always recognized what now the courts later echoed, right, with the public trust doctrine, that water is benefit for the people and our future generations, which we still, use the river. So Ms. Ramona, your question is, how do ceremony and spiritual relationships help us resist extractive industries?
Okay. Well, I'm a storyteller, so everything goes back to the beginning of time for me a long, long time ago. But it's true, from the beginning of time back to the moment when the Creator gave us life, gave us our first breath. He gave us instructions on how to live in harmony with each other, with the Creator, with each other, and with Turtle Island, the land. As a result, ceremony is the living out of those instructions that the Creator gave us. Oftentimes, our relationship with the Creator isn't just a communication, a dialogue, but it's also actions. Actions of songs, prayers, fastings, offerings. And those songs, those prayers, fasting, offerings, the ceremonies that are about our relationship with the Creator, with each other, with the land, it reminds us that we are not fighting alone. Okay? We have to realize that our ancestors who have paved the way, our history, the children that we have with us right now, and that are standing with us, and that all of our relations, the land, the water, all our relations, everything within the land, the people, the animals, the 4-legged ones, the 2-legged, the no-legged ones, that they are all with us. And because of that, our way of thinking, that's what separates us really, as far as from the way our governments and our corporations think, because they're pushing pipelines through and our rivers and digging into the burial grounds, just digging into the ground everywhere, which basically are our burial grounds. And they don't remember, and they want us to forget who we are. Ceremony reminds us of who we are. It makes our hearts stronger. It teaches us patience, humility, courage. Without ceremony, where would we be as a people, as Indigenous people? Where would we be? We'd be burned out. We'd be fearful. We'd be angry. Okay? But it's in ceremony that we keep our relationship with the Creator, with each other, with the land. It helps to keep us, quote unquote, grounded. Everyone's talking about being grounded these days, but that's so true. You got to be grounded. And that's what ceremony does for us. It gives us clarity, it gives us strength that no matter what, we can keep standing. And no matter how long the struggle might take, how seemingly impossible it might be, we know that we can make it, we have to make it, and with ceremony, that strengthens us. It all centers in the Creator for us. So it is very important in this resistance that we are involved in daily.
Thank you, Ms. Ramona, that was great. So your words really parallel how even in US law, the concepts like beneficial use have expanded over time. So we use ceremony as indigenous people. It shows as a beneficial use has always meant sustaining life, not just extraction. But, once limited to irrigation and mining the waters, courts now recognize in-stream use like fisheries and recreation as beneficial. So again, we're really having to use these oppressive systems to fight back for our, ecosystems and water. So we're gonna really have to change and shift our thinking in order to fight back. So the next question I have is gonna be for Robert. So let me get Robert spotlighted real quick. Okay, so Rob, what responsibilities do we carry for the next 7 generations in this fire?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, that's a heavy burden that we'd love to have. People talk about burdens being struggles um, and so forth, but that's a burden that we love to carry because the next 7 generations that come, nothing is ours. So everything we do and everything we say and the way we carry ourselves goes on to the next generation. And I say it's a good burden, kind of like the Red Road, the Lakota Red Road. It is important for us to remember that we don't own a darn thing out here. And it is important for us to struggle, to keep going, and show them that our ancestors before us gave so much for us to be here, and we must honor that. So once we instill that in for the next 7 generations, and we lead by example, that burden becomes very light. And like Ramona said, ceremony is a big part of that. And if we don't keep our indigenous ways, like for mine, our people was very, very colonized for exactly over 500 years. So we were the first contact, but many of our ways lived on through, the indigenous farmers and the people that they tried to colonize. So with that being said, everything they did for the next 7 generations. And you could go to the island even till today, and you will see the people in the mountains and such, they will ask permission before removing, before doing anything to the earth. Before altering any kind of river, they would make sure that it passes and still exists for that next generation. So that is how I feel, and that the delightful burden of working for the next 7 generation, and it's very important that we all adhere to it and continue it.
Thanks, Robert. I agree with you. That's why I'm really pushing this rights of nature, and I'm going to connect with your elders today. But Indigenous law really flips the timeline. Responsibility runs forward to those yet unborn. This contrast shows why rights of nature is urgent. It embeds the 7th generation directly into the law. So we only have a few minutes left. I just want to go around the room or go around for the panel. And I just want you to give me like a 1 sentence, like what does it mean to say our rivers are our relatives? And so I'll start with Beverly and then Robert. So when I say our rivers are our relatives, what does that mean to you?
It means like I can live, you can live, everyone.
All right, Ms. Ramona, when I say our rivers are our relatives, what does that mean to you?
When you say that our relatives are our relatives, our rivers are our relatives, that is exactly true. Just like our moms, our dads, aunts, uncles, all of our relatives, that is, and they give us life, sustain us. That's what our rivers do. It's just like our moms, our dads, our uncles. And you wouldn't think of hurting your mom, dad, or any of your relatives in that same way that you treat your physical relatives that you're born from is the same way we should treat the rivers. Water is life, and those rivers, that lifeline needs to be protected and treated just like a relative. I know I went over my time. I'll stop.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ms. Ramona. And Robert, what does it mean to say our rivers are our relatives?
It's exactly that. Because when we pass, our bodies are made of water. So everything, when we get entered to the earth, that becomes the water, that becomes the tree, that becomes the grass. We are literally, our ancestors are the grass we stand on, the water we walk in.
All right. So thank you so much for that. So just trying to tie it back together. So in the United States law, the Supreme Court recognized that lands and waters must sometimes be subordinated to higher needs, such as in Clark versus Nash in 1905. They took private land for irrigation because they thought water was so essential to survive. They needed to irrigate their crops, and so they took people's lands because their people were right beside the rivers. But when you look at it through an indigenous lens, law takes this further. Water is not merely useful, it is king. Rights of nature makes that truth visible in law. And I know people are kind of torn about the name rights of nature, you know, the inherent rights of Mother Earth, or I can't remember the other one, jurisprudence.
Well, 4 different
Yeah,
ones,
it's like
same
different
thing.
ones, but really, let's not, hey, Tony. It's, hey, oh, it's not about that, it's more about, the movement itself and how we need to shift the narrative and really treat these ecosystems and rivers as kin. And so I'm just let you guys know that we're gonna, I started this, declaration that I kind of wanted to unveil here at Climate Week, and it's called the Rights of Nature Declaration for North Carolina. Because in the state of North Carolina, we are working towards state bills. So we have a House bill, and we're working on a Senate bill that we want to introduce in 2027 together jointly, because we want the state of North Carolina to recognize the rights of the rivers all across the state. And so I put it up here, and I just want to tell you that we said that far too long colonial law has treated land as a commodity, rivers and resources and ecosystems as sacrifice zones for industry. The worldview has brought us to the brink of climate collapse and cultural loss. And in response, we must honor the original instructions of our ancestors and declare that the rights of nature must be recognized and upheld in North Carolina. And so we're gonna put this with our petition. And if you go to 7directionsofservice.com and click on, engage, you'll see our rights of nature page. If you could go there and click on our petition, Kim, can you look in that bag? We actually have a QR code that you can scan that will take you to the petition. And then you can sign it right there. And if you could share that petition with everybody you know, because we want to show the General Assembly that we have a movement behind us. And if you want to, in February of 2027, stay tuned. We're gonna do a lobby day in North Carolina, and we wanna have a sea of blue, because again, the only way we're gonna be able to fight these colonial and oppressive systems is if we're gonna have to use those systems against them, use the law against them, and really hold them to that. Because as we see, judges cannot break the law. And so, they can, but they'll go through it, but, we're really gonna have to change it. And so, I just wanna thank all of our speakers for being here and, staying here with me through this vision, because this is the second panel we've had, the first time we've ever done this. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
You,
It's great to see you guys.
yeah.
Great to see you.
Great being here. Wish I was with you all.
Me too,
I
Ms.
know.
Ramona.
Very
Thank
soon, very
you.
soon.
I will answer that question in an email. So, okay, you guys, we are going to end this portion of the webinar, and, I'll see you soon, okay? Thank you so much, and Robert, I'm gonna text you.